And our second panel is the three that will be on the panel are Renat, Khasanshyn of Altoros, Animesh Singh of IBM, and Gert Drapers from HP. So come on up, guys. Now the topic is about the community. What do we hope to the community to do? And we're talking more like the developer community, the users out there. What kind of metrics are we looking to encourage in related topics? So we have Animesh, Renat, and Gert. Okay, so the first question, here, I'm going to give you guys. Okay, all right, great, thanks. Okay, so let's define what the community is. Now, each of you has your own perspective, but just share with us what your community or what you are hoping the community will become.
At least I think from my perspective, if I go to something like statistics and look at the stats, to me, idea of a vibrant community is where majority of the contributions, and I would say more than 30 to 40% of the contribution should be coming from independent vendors. So ideally, if I look at the community and if I see a big name dominating, even a small name, one particular company name shouldn't be dominating that code contribution. Should be individual contributors. That to me defines a community which is alive, which is vibrant.
So from my point of view, the community has three things. One, which is a purpose, why this community is together in the first place. The second, list of things, the items that the community wants to achieve, the goals, right, within the next 1 or 2 or 3 years, quarters, whatever the community life cycle. And and the third thing is that the community acts on what the purpose of the community is, what the goals of the community is, and it just makes things happen. So people write code, documentation, promote things. So those are the three key elements, and I think that for us within the CloudFoundry community, it's critical for everybody, from developers to DevOps to engineers to business people, to get that those three items, the purpose, the goals, and the action items for all of us, what those are. And if we can all do them, at least if we count like huge number of companies, humongous in employee size. Last time I counted, there was at $1.5 trillion in market cap, $500 million dollars just in the first like 5 companies alone, and hundreds of thousands of employees. If CloudFoundry is really important, and if at least 1% of those employees would write something, a document about the Bosch API, right? The Bosch would take over the enterprise IT, believe me, because that's the gap. So thank you.
Hi, I'm not going to make it over market cap, but for me, diversity or the community is really about bringing diversity to the project. Right? It's a diversity in terms of technical aspects, diversity in use cases, and diversity also in terms of it's like how we actually take this project forward and apply it to solve real problems. Because at the end of the day, if we don't solve real problems, it's a computer science project. And we have another institution for that, that's called the university. And they're doing a really great job, and we're building on that foundation. But this community is to make CloudFoundry real, and to make it bigger and better, and to apply it to the needs that we have. That's my vision about community.
Great. Thank you all for starting off the conversation. Now, I want to see if there's anybody from the audience, the community here, who wants to ask a question about what the community might do or how it might evolve. Does anybody have a question about the community? If not, I have one, but I want to give you guys a chance. One, okay. Please state your name.
Great, nice to meet you.
Oh, that's really old, but it's Data Dude.
Data Dude. Okay.
All this while I've been tweeting to some other Gert.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my alter ego. That's yeah.
Okay.
So I have two, but
So that was the question. All right. Good question. I think you're going to get a tweet mention.
well,
Okay.
it's somebody said it's like if you show up here, it's like it gets you hot on Twitter, right?
Not on Twitter. Okay. All right. So I'm curious for each of you, all three of you, what when you do outreach, who are you targeting? Who are the folks that you look at bringing in and educating about CloudFoundry? Go ahead and give it a shot. If you want to go first, Gert, you got the mic.
All right. Sorry, guys. So a lot of our evangelism efforts and our community efforts actually start with the developer community. Right? It's like we have a lot of top-down interaction already, given the relationships that we have as a company. But in order to grow the community organically, it's like you need to have that bottoms-up movement. Right? And that starts with developers. And there was this famous guy who now has a basketball team who used to say that a lot. But it's true. It's like those are the people who use it. Those are the people who make it happen and make it real. And if we don't solve their problems, there's nothing to be solved. So that's where we start.
Architects.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, so I've been with IBM for around 10 years now, completed 9 years into my 10th year. Mostly I've been working with a lot of enterprise customers. I think at the end of last year, at the beginning of this year, when I was asked, can I run meetups, I was a bit apprehensive because that's something typically for us folks in IBM, I've been in the cloud side, I've been working with a lot of customer side. Meetups is basically which is targeted at the grassroots levels. You are interacting directly with the developers. You're facing some of the uncomfortable questions like just what Dr. Nick asked. So I was a bit apprehensive, would I be able to pull it off? And is it the right thing to do? Now, the reason was that we were launching our platform Bluemix based on CloudFoundry. And the core set of people we were targeting were developers. This was a new, I would say a relatively new market for IBM because typically we have been more focused around bigger enterprise companies. But this was the first time we are actually launching something which is going to go to developers, going to go to students, going to go to all these people at the grassroots level. And that's kind of convinced me that's where we need to start. All these previous years of thinking that we need to go top down wouldn't work with something like this where the primary target is actually reaching out to end developers. So that's what hopefully I've been trying to reach out through the meetups, through the Twitter social handle, through SlideShare, targeting a lot of developers. I've been conducting a lot of workshops in the universities because the folks in the universities who are actually studying will be the CIOs and the CTOs and the distinguished engineers in companies later on, and they will be making those decisions. So taking that thinking at that grassroots levels, educating them, that's far more important for a platform like this.
Okay, great. One more chance for the audience. Oh, we got one right there. Okay, Eric.
So Eric Nielsen, AMC. So the question is, if you're looking for developers, is it more important to get people to develop CloudFoundry or to develop on top of CloudFoundry?
Okay. So question is, Eric asked, is it more important to target developers building applications on top of CloudFoundry or to actually contribute code to the CloudFoundry code base itself? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Okay. Gert?
So I'll start with the obvious one, right? It's like if you don't have developers deploying and using CloudFoundry, you don't need the other category. And we need much more people deploying and using this and actually taking the benefit of CloudFoundry inside their enterprises and their organizations to get better at this. Now, hopefully, a percentage of those developers will also contribute codes within their means. Right? It's like a lot of things like build packs. It's like it's not rocket science. It just needs to be done right. And we need to have them. And we want to have the choice in between all those languages. And it's like, I don't know what the last language was that I was asked about. It was a language I never heard about. And apparently it was established. Tells me something about my knowledge as well. But it's like there is the better diversity we have inside the platform, the more successful CloudFoundry as a platform will be. And so, yeah, we need both. I think there is an 80-20 ratio. We're hiring, so if you're in one of the other categories, feel free to ping me.
My take is that none of these are as important as getting technology companies and non-technology companies that want to become software companies to make software developers at large, those who have no idea what CloudFoundry is, to start building applications and deploy them on CloudFoundry or deploy them with on containers. That's better than VMs, right? Without caring about what's underneath. And an example of it would be a company called Illumina. And that company, you'll be surprised. They're running Docker containers, apps in the Docker containers in production at large scale. And they're offering the folks who are scientists, who want to run some sort of algorithm on top of genomes that were generated by those sequencers. They have no understanding of what the 12-factor app is. They don't care. But when they build an app and they deploy it on container. So we want these use cases, the .NET developers, the scientists, the researchers to build apps and to make the apps work for them without even caring what's underneath. And that's, I think, the most important thing for the CloudFoundry community is to enable the companies and their end users to get apps. It's all about the apps. At the end of the day, there is no app, there is no gain, right? So if we can make 1 million people make apps without even caring that CloudFoundry is inside of some other technology, that would be a big deal. Thank you.
Yeah, and my perspective, definitely we need the folks, the building apps on top, to fund the folks to contribute to CloudFoundry. I mean, for all the altruism and all the benefits of open source, in the end, if you are contributing to open source, there has to be, first of all, an organic need. Why? Why do you want to do that? It doesn't have, I mean, it's totally not, I just want to benefit the community, right? There has to be some sort of business interest. Somebody has to pay your bills, right? In the end, you have a family to take care of. So in that sense, I think if you see most of the open source contributions, definitely some part of it is enabling and making the community stronger, but a good ratio of it is also governed by the kind of apps your end consumers are building and the kind of requirements they are giving you. For example, IBM contributed WebSphere Liberty Build Pack to the CloudFoundry community. That was because we were hearing from a lot of our end developers, they wanted to port these apps which they have built on WebSphere onto CloudFoundry. We contributed to CLI, internationalization in terms of adding other language support. Again, because we are in so many other countries, the kind of requirements we were getting was, it's only language-centric in terms of English is the only supported language. Now a team of 3 dedicated folks from IBM is contributing to the Diego project. So if you see, there is a good balance. I mean, you have to have some sort of need, some sort of requirements which you are getting from your consumers. And part of that, then you translate in terms of writing that code and seeing what part of that code can be contributed back to the open source community.
Okay, we have to wrap this panel up, but before we wrap it up completely, since this is the community panel, I'd like to let anybody in this room suggest if you wanted a developer to get quickly familiar with CloudFoundry, where would you tell them to go? And be nice. So let's start with the 3 on the panel. Where would you tell them to go?
That's a tricky question, right? I mean, being from IBM and the fact that I've used Bluemix so much, my first instant reaction would be Bluemix. I mean, and the fact this is something I've heard from when I went to San Jose State University and a couple of other universities. Very easy for students to actually sign up, get started on that. A lot of student projects from that university are running. So for the fact that I've used it so much, I belong to that company, I would say Blomix for sure.
I'll skip the answer in between the two powers here. Thank you.
So, yeah. So this is it's advertisement time. So,
I wasn't expecting it to take this long.
well, okay. So we need to get to a micro cloud that you can install on your notebook. We're not there, but that's where we need to get to.
Now, like I said, anybody else here? Yes.
I don't want this to be a product pitch, but Staccato is a micro cloud you can download and install on your laptop in 2 minutes. Thanks.
Absolutely. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Hey, Dr. Nick, this is your chance. Where would you tell people to go? Okay. Now, anything else you want to promote?
Just a customer prospect coming in, and you know, I could say, yeah, we'll install it for you. You know, you can give us money, but that's not the point. They want to prove it internally. You just say, look, go to Pivotal, go to IBM. You can get the demo done. You'll blow people's minds.
Okay. Pivot. You just added Pivotal to the list. That sounds great. Anybody else? Killian, you want to add something?
The whole point is that it runs apps unmodified. There is no CloudFoundry API for the app layer, right? Other than getting your connection string for a database. So I don't know what the hell y'all are talking about. What the hell do you have to do to a Rails app to make it run in CloudFoundry, right? What do you do? Or a Spring app? Nothing, right? It automatically reconfigures the database.yaml file when you deploy the app. That's it. So where do you go to learn to write an app on top of CloudFoundry, a Rails app? You get the Rails tutorial book, whatever it's called, Agile Development Ruby on Rails, right? And you go write your app, right? Okay. That is the whole point, right? So if we're not doing that, then we suck, and you all are messing it up, and you need to get back on track.
So in other words, Killian, what you're saying is that every developer is a CloudFoundry developer. They just don't know it yet. Okay, so that's what we need to do. We need to get the word out that your hands are already soaking in it, if you know that phenomenon. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next.